Oh, what's up? Welcome back. Okay, simple skills welding, like the title says, and we've said for a long time we won't do this, but I think it's necessary. Every time I spark up the welder lately, a few of you are asking in the comments, look, can you do a simple skills on welding? I think I might use that. It'd be useful. I'd like to see how you do it, how you explain it, so I can get involved. And I kind of understand what you're saying. I checked out a few videos on the net, and I see that most of them are pitched at the people who can already weld. They're not really simple skill stuff. So here we go today. I'm just going to cover the basic kinds of welding as briefly as I can, 2-3 sentences, and we're going to stick to the MIG welder, because the MIG welder, the hobby welder, that's what you'll be buying when you get involved yourself. So there we are, simple skills welding. Welcome back to the Delboy's Garage. Alright, so what we're going to do for the purpose of this video is stick to MIG welding, because honestly there is no easier way to weld two pieces of metal together than with a MIG welding machine. It is designed for hobby use, for the beginner, for anybody to use, it really is. TIG welding is a precision process for the skilled and the highly trained people. I wouldn't even bother with it, it's not worth it, it's very difficult to do. I've been welding for about 5 years on a kind of untrained basis, and I'm still struggling with that. It'll be a long time before I'm any good. MIG welder though, on the other hand, extremely easy to use, and you actually can lay down some pretty good welds with it. The basic principle is it's very, very controllable, and it's an easy mechanical process. It's the motor skills needed are not difficult. So a MIG welder, we're going to stick with that. The basic rig you need is the machine, decent mask, and some gloves. It's as simple as that, and a bit of scrap metal, because you're going to need lots of scrap metal for practice. Welding gloves like that in a tool store, they cost about £10, not expensive. And these are heat-proof welding gloves. You don't need them, but they're handy if you're going to handle the metal itself. With practice, you'll get better. You can just use some sort of thinner gloves, stuff that's not quite so bulky as those, but you can get all that stuff. You can get aprons and jackets and stuff, but quite simply, some old clothes are okay. A mask itself, there are different kinds of masks. There's the old diver's type, which is like a big bell on your head. They're a bit rubbish because you can't see anything through them. These things, this is the auto darkening mask. You can see through that until the arc strikes up, then it darkens. So it automatically darkens, which means you can see through it to line up the weld before you press the trigger. That's the half the problem. Once that happens, it darkens down and protects your eyes, and they're all adjustable. One of those, about £40–50 for a simple mask. And then the machine itself, now, let's put it over here. A MIG welding machine will cost you from about, I reckon, £100 from one of the decent tool companies. This particular one is a Clark Weld MIG 135. The numbers, right. MIG is this particular kind of welding, metal inert gas. Don't bother reading about all that. It really is boring. There's MIG and TIG and ARC and all sorts. But basically, the MIG machine is what you need. 135 amps. This is the power, the amount of voltage, the amount of ampage power that the machine will kick out to make a weld. If you're welding half-inch thick solid roof joist steel from I-beams that hold houses up, then you need a proper professional machine. These little hobby MIGs, they're only giving you 135 amps. That's not particularly a massive amount. It's perfectly enough for, say, 1/4-inch thick steel. You can weld up to 6 mil thick steel with 135 amps. That's plenty. You don't need any more than that. You'll burn holes in it. You'll start to melt things and set fire to them. Sheet metal, crikey, I'm down at, on minimum settings. Also, this hasn't got, if you have a quick look in it, this hasn't got a specific ampage anyway. It's got, this is the ampage control here. It's 1 and 2, minimum, maximum. So you've got kind of 1 minimum, 1 maximum, that's the second setting, and then 2 minimum max. So you've really got 4 different settings, 4 fixed settings. Some of them, the posh machines have a little dial with a little readout. They all vary, but so pick a machine that suits you. There isn't really any need to get involved in knowing how many amps you should be welding at. You'll soon find out. If there's too many, you'll burn a hole in it. If it's not enough, then it'll fall apart. It's all about melting the metal together and getting that right. And that's the practice side of it. But I want this to just be able to show you that's what the machine looks like. Come around the side here, Pat. So there's your front controls, on, off, ampage control, wire speed. That controls the speed at which the wire is fed out the end of the gun. In the side, you get a big reel of wire. You see that there? So this is a reel of wire, and if I just fire it up, let me show you what I mean. The way these work is, the big machine is really idiot-proof. It's designed for the hobbyist. You don't have to worry about feeding the rod in at the right speed. It does it all for you. That's what this speed is. You set it manually. So when you've got the gun here, you just switch it on. When you press the trigger, this is turned all by the machine. The speed at which it's turned is set by the machine. You set all those settings and it will just come out at a constant speed all the time. Ever so easy. You don't have to worry about feeding it in with your hand, which you do on TIG welding. And one of those reels of wire, there's two kinds of wire. This is naked wire. This wire is just mild steel. It's gold in colour because it's plated, but basically it's a mild steel wire. Now you can buy reels of wire that have got flux on them. Flux is a protective coating. I'm going to keep this simple without making it boring. If there's the presence of oxygen in a weld, when you're melting that metal together, one of the biggest enemies is oxygen. A fire needs three elements to burn: heat, fuel and oxygen. Now the oxygen feeds the fire. This is why when you're heating this metal, the oxygen in the atmosphere can contaminate, it can overheat and you get bubbles in the weld. So what they do is, you see on the back pen, turn it off, let's unplug it before we yank it out. Around the back here, we have a little bottle of gas. These little hobby machines come with a bottle of gas. Okay, welding gas, this is, now this gas is a shielding gas. What it means is, there's no oxygen in that at all. It's oxygen-free gas. It's either a mixture of CO2 and argon, it's boring, all that, but basically that is inert gases which don't burn. Oxygen burns. If you introduce oxygen to a flame, it gets brighter because it burns. It's almost a flammable gas effectively. So that's got no oxygen in it at all. So what happens, I need to plug this back in again, just so you can understand the basics of how the machine works. Come on, pen. Let's just take the tip off. Now you can see this is the inner part of the gun, and I want to turn the gas on. Turn the bottle on so the bottle's primed. Maybe you listen and catch it on there. So when you press the trigger just a little way, turn it on, it will start to feed the gas out first, and then, so watch on there, can you get both in? So once you press halfway first, you get the gas, and then you get that. So it's a two-stage trigger, it's all automatic, just press the trigger and it'll all just work. And what you do then, this little cap, this tube, goes over the tip. Can you see that again, man? Now obviously while this is just hopefully so you understand the machine a little bit. I'll come back out. The gas is coming out of these holes on the side, and it comes, we screw this on and seal it down. It's just like a little nozzle, and that means you can hear different now. Let's turn that off. You'll hear it inside. So that gas is now flowing out the end. And the idea of that is that as that inert, non-flammable gas is flowing out the end, it's shielding this wire. This wire then lives inside a little column of that non-flammable shield gas. That's why it's called a shielding gas. It shields that wire and the welding puddle. It shields it from oxygen, which will make it all go bubbly and horrible and fall apart. You need that weld to be completely free of oxygen. So you need the gas. Now, one of these bottles of gas, these, honestly, take a look. The great thing with these welders, that bottle of gas there will last me with what I do about 6 months, honestly, and they're about a tenner. And we paid £10 for that. £11.99. You get 50% extra. That was used to be a 400 gram bottle. So that is a liquid compressed gas, and that will last for ages and ages. And it just clips onto the back of the machine. You get a little regulator on the top. You turn it on, and it just works. Now that gas bottle here, this is the argon bottle. That's the 100% argon bottle needed for TIG welding. Now that amount of bottle there will run out before this one does. This is what I was saying about TIG welding being very expensive on materials. That little bottle there will outlast that great big one, which is why TIG welding is so expensive. That was about £70 worth of gas. That's about a tenner. MIG welding really is user friendly. Once you get into it, you'll realise you can do loads and loads and loads, and one day that will run out and you'll forget when you bought it. You have to check the date on the bottle. You can buy a big bottle like that, they will just last years. You don't need to start with. These little things you can buy in the hobby shop where you've got hobby MIG. Now, this gas, you don't have to use it at all. This is where I'm going with this. If you don't use this gas, you have to buy a special wire which has a flux over the top. It's got a special layer of flux over the top of the wire, and that shields the weld instead of this. Basically, the way the flux works, as the flux burns, it creates this gas. It gives off the CO2 gas and it stops the oxygen causing a problem. So effectively you either get flux wire or gas, one or the other. Having tried both, that reel of wire in there was a massive big 5 kilo reel, big huge reel, and that cost about £25, and I've never replaced it in 4 years. It's lasted me years. It's still rolling. Probably not much left, but they last forever. It doesn't cost much money. If that had been shielded or flux core wire, it would have cost 5 times as much. And yet these bottles are a tenner and they last. I think that's the 5th one I've ever done in all the time I've been welding. They last forever. So if it was me, it's your choice. Personally, you can. Some welders, and I'm sure I'll get this comment, they prefer the flux core wire. It's just a choice. They both work. It's entirely up to you how much you want to spend on it. So I'm going to poke this over here. Okay, so that's the machine basically explained. The problem is every single machine is different. So I think as long as you understand that you have an ampage control, an on-off switch, a wire speed, and to get, if you can, get the oxygen bottle and naked wire kind, it will be the cheapest way to go forward. But you can make that decision for yourself. If you've got any questions, drop us a question in the comments box and I can always answer it for your particular application. Right, I'm going to have a little play with this now. And this is how I did it. I went out, bought that. I bought that from a guy who went and bought it from the machine shop, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Got it home, set fire to his car. It's hilarious, isn't it? He was trying to weld a rocker panel, I think Americans call it, or a sill panel on his car. And he left all the carpet in, he's welding away and he could smell burning. And the inside of the car was on fire, so I think he decided to sell it before he burned his house down. So I got a bit of a deal. I think I picked the whole lot up for £50, so about 100 quid to buy that now. So you can buy different ones, have a look online, Machine Mart. I think I might put a link actually, yeah. I'll put a Machine Mart link underneath. You can have a look at the basic ones they've got on there. But we're going to have a little play with it. All I did was brought it home, had a little play with it, made some serious mistakes. I did burn myself, and then you gradually start to learn, and you look things up. Google it, honestly, you know, the wonders of Google, you can do all sorts. And from there, over the years, you'll get better, you'll get more proficient at it, and in the end, you'll be making decent welds yourself. Now, setting these things up is taking the time to set it all up. We've got the ground strap, the earth lead. I'm going to set that up. I've got a piece of sheet metal clamped into a pair of grips. These grips are brilliant for welding. You can buy, hang on, let me show you very quickly. You can buy all kinds of interesting mole grips, vice grips, for panels to hold them together when you're going to weld them. This sort of stuff. I've got a packet of 3 of these, different ones from the machine shop for about 25 quid. They're not expensive, and it's all part of your welding tackle, part of your rig. And you also need a pair of these. Okay, so a quick weld just to show you. All you need to do is make sure you clean it up first. All metal you're going to weld, no matter what it is, has got to be clean. So we'll just weld there, butt weld these 2 bits of metal together. Little magnet, hold them together. Put a little weld in there. Right, you focus in on that, then shut your eyes in a sec. Focus in first. Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's have a go. Eyes? Mm-hmm. There we are. Now obviously, let that cool down. Now let's a little bit more wire speed on that. Now obviously here, this has gone quite a flat weld, so I'm going to try again and I'll turn the wire speed up. So I'll be feeding more wire in and it will make a different weld. I'll come along this back edge. David? Mm-hmm. Eyes? Go. Now check that out, baby. Alright, so looking in there, let's have a little clean up. You don't get any slag or soot on that. Both of those welds are perfectly okay for sheet metal. Alright, so I'll do a little bit more. I'm just going to show you something else. Something else that's quite useful is what's known as a plug weld. If you're going to weld
that was all.
Bears, dude, got me. Safe as well. Always be safe. So you know other thing. This is a plug weld. So you drill a hole in something. If you're going to weld a piece of metal flat against another piece like that, then normally welding around the edge would be the way to go. But if you want to be absolutely sure, drill a hole in the piece first, then lay it on the job, and if you weld into that hole, like into one hole, you'll join it permanently through what's known as a plug weld. So I'll stick a plug weld in that. Let's just stick it on a, it's getting a bit hot. Stick a plug weld in that as well. Ready? You got it? Mm-hmm. And there we are. So all that is, as you can see, is a great way to join a piece of flat sheet metal onto another piece that you may need to do for whatever application. And all I've done is plug that little hole with a weld. You see it's penetrating through the back. It's the best giveaway, the absolute best telltale of any weld is that it shows on the other side. So if you look the other side and it's burnt through, you know that's a good weld. So I'll just do one more on this outside edge, show you what I mean. All you're doing is press the trigger. So quite simply, press the trigger first, get the gas flowing, and then press it all the way in, start getting the wire come out, and then feed it in a pattern, either in a circle or in a stitch pattern across, like a C pattern across there, or straight in a line, whichever works. Okay, here we are. Again, run a pile of weld along it. On 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 welds on 1.5mm sheet metal, no holes. If you take it easy, if you put too much voltage in, you'll just blow a hole in it. And if you don't put enough in, the weld will just sit on the surface like a piece of pigeon poo and it will fall off and the metal will fall apart. The best test of any weld to make sure it's strong enough is the hipping stick. So if you just give it a good whack, none of that's coming apart. That is so there you are. Test of it all is you can just chuck it on the floor, beat it around, and it won't hurt, it won't fall apart. Welding is a practice thing. Let's turn it off. Once you've got a machine you understand, and you understand how to set up the controls to make the wire feed out at the right speed, it's coming again, where are we? Now I've got, now I've got these welds here. There's enough wire coming out, but not too much power, so it's not going to blow through it, and it's melting across there in a stitch, and the little plug weld is the same. So getting the wire speed right, the power that your voltage, or sorry, the amperage that you've been into it correct as well, balancing those two, that's how you end up making reasonably good welds. What do you reckon, Pen? So you can have a go?
Probably.
Not today. Okay, there we are. I hope this has been of some use. And obviously the subject of welding is absolutely enormous. There is so much you can learn, there's so much you can look up. There are books 3 inches thick on welding, and God knows what they find to put in them all, because it's as simple as that. You'll find that something's gone wrong with your weld, then look it up. If you go on Google, there's a million answers out there on it. If you just put in, why are my welds coming up porous? Why do my welds always fall apart? You'll find forums discussing it, mates helping each other out, put more voltage into it. Why am I blowing holes in everything? With sheet metal, if you put too much heat into it, it distorts. So what you will do is stitch it. You put a little tack, then come along, another little tack, leaving gaps for it to cool down so it doesn't get too hot. And that's another way to do it. Also, other little things, you can take a piece of metal, like this, piece of aluminium. All that's been happening there, that's really hot. All that's been happening is that's been laying on there while I've been welding another piece of metal. And that's still got hot. Aluminium, copper, brass, any of the non-ferrous metals, they draw the heat out of the weld. And that's a good thing, because then it doesn't get too hot, it doesn't blow through, and it doesn't distort. Honestly, I could go on for hours about welding and it's all boring. All you want to do is get a machine and start practicing. And I suggest to anybody doing basic welding, that's how to do it. Go and get yourself a machine, get yourself a decent mask, some old clothes, protective clothes, gloves, whatever, and get practicing. Start working on some metal, get some scrap, start making a garden ornament. Welding something up, you just chuck in the bin afterwards.
That's my Christmas present.
That's your Christmas. Yeah, that's it, taken care of. There you go, the little boat. There we are. Hope that helps. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments box. And if you're interested in machines, if you want a second opinion, drop us a question again if you want to see what I think. Anything else, Ben?
Thank you.
There we are. We'll leave you with the wall of friends. Thank you for all your amazing plates. We've got 2 more to put up. Didn't get time today. But there we are. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, ride safe, and we'll see you next time.